you a woman in medicine feeling overwhelmed and disconnected from the personal fulfillment that you desire? You're in the right place. Join Doctors Joanne and Aaron as they rewrite the rules for women in medicine. Let's begin.
In this episode, I am so excited that Joanne and I are joined by our good friend, Richert Belul. We've known each other through Brendan Burchard's network of individuals, and she's one of our favorite people to share with you today. And she has so many lessons to help you learn about different ways to think about life and so many really tangible methods to implement change. And I'm just so excited to have you here with us today, Sherry.
Sherry, thank you so much for being here. We've both been looking forward to today, and you've been in our list of guests since I think before we started the podcast. So who do we want to share with our audience? And for those who, I want to paint the picture because Erin and I talk a lot about the Brendan Burchard world and these conferences that you go to, and some are small, some are big. And so imagine there's like hundreds of people or sometimes even thousands. And then you see this cute, petite lady with her hat and her shoes, and she's just a bubble of joy. And if she met you once, she will remember you, and she'll remember your name or some nugget of information, and she'll hug you and give you all your joy. And I think of you, it's like that expert in joy and appreciation. So I would love for you to talk more about that, of ways we can appreciate people, because I don't know, it floats out of you.
Well, I love that. And thank you. And it's easy when it's people like you who are so beautiful and loving and wonderful to know. And I always love to say joy is a practice for me. Right. So a lot of times people meet me and they might think, oh, you're just naturally happy, or you're so naturally generous or joyful or whatever adjective. But the truth is, these are lifelong practices. And I think it's important to always start with, right? Because it truly is something. Love is a practice. And the Brennan events are a great example, because I literally started volunteering for him back in 2010. And I would put a Post-it note on the door so that I would see it before I left that said, "Be love." And that has been sort of a guiding force for me for forever, right? To have to remember to be intentional and to practice love. And I'm excited that we're going to be talking about some ways to do that. And I know we're going to be talking about some really simple ways too, which
put
I
so
love.
many things into practice. And one of the areas that I am aware of is you celebrate your birthday in a very unique way. And it not only benefits you celebrate others. And as we've interviewed Don Baselka with the Cards to Warriors campaign, and as Joanne and I both hosted events on March 20th in anticipation of Doctor's Day, which is celebrated on March 30th, you write cards and use your birthday as a way to expand the love and appreciation you feel for your birthday to others. And I would love for you to share that with our listener.
Yes. And, kind of maybe fun fact, maybe a little sad fact. When I was growing up, birthdays were hard for me. I come from a family where my parents were divorced, and a lot of hardship, although I love my mom dearly and she's just my biggest advocate. But birthdays, I think for a lot of people, can be kind of sometimes a mixed bag. They bring up a lot of questions. And for me, the idea dropped in when I was turning 48 that I was going to write 48 letters to 48 strangers. At that time, it was 48 hours. I've since changed that to days, which is much more doable. But what happened immediately was that it changed everything about how I felt on my birthday, right? Because I was so focused on sending out these letters to people, and it connected me deeply, as you can only imagine, the way that I do my birthday project is that I invite people who are part of my Simply Celebrate community to let me know if there's somebody that needs a boost of love. So I'm enlisting the aid of people. And that's the first thing that's really beautiful, is that I'm connecting to someone who wants to give love. And typically these letters are written anonymously. Sometimes they're done on the behalf of the person who requested them, but mostly anonymously. And so there's already sort of a beautiful connection that gets made between me and the person who wants to surprise somebody with love. And then the other thing that has happened is, and now I've been doing this for so many years, is that connection that can happen to someone I don't know. Often I'll ask the person who requests a letter to just tell me, like, the basics of why. And typically it's really hard stuff. Someone's child has died, or someone is caretaking a parent who's dying, or someone has a chronic illness, or they've lost their dream job that they loved for so long. They're typically really difficult experiences that people go through. And for me, almost immediately, I was so struck by how my heart opened to, all I had was a name and an address and a sort of a situation they were in. But this is where it's a little bit woo-woo, but I think you two will understand. I would meditate before writing each letter and just ask the universe, the letters usually come from the universe. And I would say, what do I need to say? What does this person really need to hear? And inevitably, I might get an image of a butterfly, or I might get, who knows what, a hummingbird. There'd be something that would just launch the love I would send. And so I could talk for hours about this, but I'll stop there. But I think the biggest thing about this project is that I've never felt alone since I started doing this, because I know I can connect, to any other human being.
Chills all over
simply
me,
by reaching out with love. That's one of the
things that I say, like, when we learn to identify with these words that express who we are. And I usually say, I am love. And I say, if I stand in love, then everything else around me is better, even if I'm mad, even if I'm stressed out, just because it gives you that intention. So I love hearing you say that, and then how that helps you connect and helps you not feel alone. A lot of our listeners, even when we're busy doing for others, caring for others, we end up struggling a lot in silence and feeling alone. So what a beautiful way. And I want to expand, because when we were talking to you before, you mentioned your secret agents of change. So expand a little bit.
Well, and before we change topics, I just want to expand on her birthday letter writing project, because we talk about community, and because I have been blessed to be in Sherry's community. When my godmother was in her final days, I nominated my godmother's daughter, who was really struggling. She was so close to her mom. And so I nominated someone, and Sherry wrote a beautiful letter for someone I loved. And so as she talked about this network of connection, she'd never met my godmother or her daughter, and yet she was able to send out love and kindness during probably the hardest time of this person's life. And for me to be able to offer that gift of love through someone that I know is so pure of heart and so loving and makes such a positive ripple effect in the universe was so powerful. And again, when we talk about community, choosing the right community, I can name the blessings of being in Sherry's community, would go on for days and days. And I'm just so grateful for that. And you also planted a seed for me, because that was back in maybe 2021. Then as I heard about this card writing campaign with Cards to Warriors, and then I thought, well, I'm part of Sherry's community and she does card writing, and I've had it on my list. I want to expand the card writing. And Kim Downey, who introduced me to Dawn Veselka, she wanted to expand on card writing for healthcare providers. And all of those different pieces of my universe came together to then be able to say, I want to do this for my community, and being able to host an in-person event on March 20th for through my medical society, and seeing how can we spread that love. because of all these seeds that have been planted for years, making it all come together. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a seed that was planted years ago, helping me expand on that.
Oh, Erin, that is so beautiful, right? And I love what you're saying, because to me, this is the real definition of legacy, right? Is that we often don't know, that what it means when we do one single act of kindness, how that might ripple out. And to me, that's one of the most beautiful things. I love that you just shared that.
And now I do want to hear about the secrets Agents of Change,
writing.
because I have heard little snippets of it, and I catch you online sometimes, and you just have so many acts of kindness you put out there. So I interrupted your next question, but do share that with us as well.
Yes, well, I love this. This is a project that I co-host with a poet friend of mine, and it started actually with a letter. So I had sent Rosemary is a beautiful poet, and I had sent her. I was doing this project where I was sending $5 to people, which isn't a lot of money, but I created a little note that said, may this token of abundance, show you the abundance you've given me, or something like that. And I was sending them to people that I didn't know who had touched my life. And so her poetry, I was getting her poetry daily and in emails, and she was one of the people that I reached out to. And I never thought she'd do this, but she wrote a poem about receiving this $5 in the mail, and she called it Secret Agent. And she posted it. She was quite a following. And I saw in the comments, people were like, I want to be a secret agent. I want to be a secret agent. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is so beautiful, right? People really love the idea of sending love through the mail. This is kind of what we're talking about today, right? And that's how it started. And I had to gather all my courage, because she was to me like a rock star, right? She was a rock star poet. And I asked her if she might be interested in starting something. And we decided to call it the Secret Agents of Change. And so we do these operations or missions, and Rosemary will usually come up with a poem that has a bit of a theme to it. It might be about teenagers, so our operation is about teenagers. It might be about color, it might be about peace. And then I give people a prompt. And so then our agents all go out into the world and do these secret. And that's a really big part of it. The secret and the anonymous part is really important. And they just do these different secret agent operations. And I'll just tell you a few just to give you a sense. There's millions of them, because we've done these for many years now. But for instance, it might be like the one that we did for teenagers. Because teenagers, it was during the pandemic, I think, but teenagers were really having a hard time being at home. And so we might do something where someone will go to the local ice cream shop and pay for the 10, orders that come from teenagers that day. Or, it might be something where we're celebrating people who are like unsung heroes. And so I remember that, someone left gift cards on all the garbage bins on their street for the people who collect the garbage. Those are just like two sort of really simple, I just saw one that came in this morning from our latest operation, which was about love languages. So we were having people do missions that were in their favorite love language. And so this person was an affirmation person. And so she went into the office in the middle of the night and left Post-it notes for all of her colleagues that just thanked them for specific things, and that were secret notes to them, that when people came into the office in the morning, everybody found these love notes. So those are just a few examples of things. We actually have, several hundred agents who participate each time, and they're out there in the world doing these. And really,
it sounds like so much fun.
I'm going to have to fun acts of love.
Get on the list of those. And I love that you make it easy for people to do new things. And when people make it easy, so I did a cold plunge challenge for the Special Olympics, maybe 2 or 3 Saturdays ago. I never would have thought. Joanne's done kind of cold plunging for much longer than I am. And I never thought. And I did it, and it was so much fun. And I was like, it's addicting. I'm sure I'm going to do it again next year. And so you have so much excitement behind this. It makes it hard to not want to go, oh, I want to figure out when's the next Secret Agent of Change activity, and my hope is we'll have a link or somehow to connect with that and put it in the show notes, because what an intriguing title too, Secret Agents of Change. So many powerful ideas.
And I think that's part of it. Like, and I know you two, and I know you both are very fun people, right? And I think we particularly need that. These last number of years have been hard in various ways. And that's part of it, right? Like, it's great to do kindness in the world, random acts of kindness, but it's even more fun to be a secret agent, right? Like, it just, we do a lot of artwork around that, and people, their badges and whatnot. And
you shared an article with me, with Joanne and I, when we were talking about the topics we wanted to share. Maybe you just sent it to me. I'm looking it up right now. And it was, it's a post from a physician that I know that helps with mental health of healthcare providers. And it was actually sharing that a few sentences on a card or a note can save a life. And you may minimize the impact. And I just wonder, 48 cards in your 48th year, 49 cards in your 49th year. And there's just this exponential multiplier effect. And you'll never know the ripple effect of each of those cards of kindness. But if one card can save a life, let's not minimize that tiny action. And when Joanne and I talk about the women in medicine struggling in silence, when you do this secret agent of change, or doing an anonymous card, or this card writing events that we're doing, you don't need to ask their permission. Do you need something uplifting today? You just do it. And you just may never know the positive impact that that's going to have. And that's okay.
I love that. And if I might, can I just say a word about that, about the never knowing? Like, because I think that's part of the secret medicine for those of us who are doing these acts, is that I'm such a fan. I mean, you'll see, like, I send out the birthday letters. Most of them are anonymous, and the secret agents is because I feel like what happens when someone is the recipient of anonymous kindness or love, that what it does is they're looking around the world, and it could be anyone. And so to me, it provides this channel of, oh, the world is a good place, right? Because we're wondering, it could be you, or it could be you, or it could be you. And we start to project the goodness all around us. Not that, I mean, it's wonderful when we do acts of kindness or love, and we sign it, or people know it comes from us, but there's a shift that happens when it's secret. If you guys have ever been out in the world, and, it might be as simple as, right, as someone has drawn a heart on the sidewalk that says peace. There's just sort of an overall warmth and goodness that happens from that, because we don't know who did it. And so to me, it makes the world
and
just
it's a
seem
gift,
like,
because there is no reciprocal expectation, and it's impossible if it's anonymous. So it is a true gift for you to give, and also they have to receive it and know that there's no way to repay that. And how beautiful of a message that is, when so many relationships or interactions can seem more transactional. And this is just a beautiful gift of love, no strings attached. And you first.
Erin, sorry. Well, I was just going to say, Dawn talked about that in your episode with her, right? That she talked about that trust of putting something in the mailbox, because I don't put return addresses on the letters. So there is a certain, and I resonated when she said that. There's just this beautiful trust that this will reach that person, and it will reach them at the right time, and they'll feel the love. And I don't need to know that. You know what I mean? Just like you said, I think it's a great piece not to have any kind of obligation attached to it.
Referring to episode 74, where Joanne and I interviewed Dawn Veselka, who was one of the co-founders of Cards to Warriors. And we can put the link to that show and the Cards to Warriors in there as well. But I also want to highlight, I don't know if we mentioned, Sherry is an author. This is a book, Say It Now, 33 Creative Ways to Say I Love You to the Most Important People in Your Life. And she breaks it down into really simple, easy ways. I've had her talk at my retreats and at workshops about her love list. And this is one of my favorite books to give as a gift to my clients, to my family, because it doesn't, we as women physicians, we often overcomplicate things, and it doesn't need to be that complicated.
Thank you, Erin. Yes, yes. And, it doesn't need to be complicated at all. And it doesn't need to take a lot of time, and it doesn't need to take a lot of money. And in fact, as most of us know, right? Like sometimes it's just the smallest reaching out to someone that really makes such a huge difference. And so, the important part to me is also the say it now part, which the reason I called it that is that I love funerals and memorials where people tell those beautiful stories, right? And they really honor and pay tribute, and it's so touching. And right, I would always say, why don't we say this now well the person can hear it, right? Like it's beautiful, but people need to hear these things while they're alive. And there's an energy to saying something in the moment. And it's just something I would invite people to pay attention to, because often we might have an idea and think, oh, well, I'll do that next week, or I'll do that when they turn 50, or I'll do that when, and either it gets forgotten or the energy kind of dissipates.
Or we lose our opportunity.
So
because they're no longer with us.
Say no.
Yeah. And you've shared so many amazing ideas with us, Sherry. As you know, the name of our podcast is Create Meaning in Medicine. And yet that can be expanded. And I would love to hear from your perspective. What's one of the ways that you create more meaning in your life, in your community?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, the things that we've been talking about are the what I call pinpricks of light, right? And I know you guys have probably heard me speak about that, but to me, what creates meaning for me is these tiny moments of connection or creativity or love or light. And I really am dedicated to finding them. Like I just glanced outside and we have a beautiful acacia tree that's sort of got these purple tips on it, right? That's a pinprick of light, like noticing the beauty around us, noticing you too, your faces, your curiosity, your interest, that palpable feel of how much you care and you want to support people. That's a pinprick of light. So noticing them and also creating them, right? So, when you just mentioned about, obviously we know physicians, like, wow, like so much to carry, so much effort and work and talent. And the first thing that dropped in my mind when I was thinking of a say it now, moment would be like my son. Let's say my son was helped by someone, right? By a physician. And now it's 2 years later, and suddenly I'm just really feeling grateful for his health, right? That I can turn on the voice recorder on my phone and just say, hey, my son is out there, running around. He's so healthy thanks to you. You may not even remember, maybe you do, but this was something that you did 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and sort of bringing that appreciation that I'm feeling in the moment straight to their doorstep, right? And the reason I say like an audio note, it's so simple, it's so fast, it can be 20 seconds, but they hear the energy in your voice, they hear and they're like, oh my gosh, right? Like how often do we get to be appreciated for something that we did?
Like I have so many thoughts, my brain is going and so many ideas of things that I can start doing because we have been talking about this acts of kindness and the card making. I said I'm going to incorporate it in a retreat I have with the women in medicine that I'm coaching. It's just next week, and I already put some cards to have them in the practice of it, and the ripple effect that I hope it creates. And now I'm thinking, wait, I'm turning 50 soon. We're gonna create at least 50 cards and maybe shuffle them so that we can all each get a few from each of us, and then we can spread them out to our own world. So my brain is spinning, and I hope our listener is also, right? Like that's part of our mission here to, like you guys were saying, it doesn't need to be complicated. And I've shared here that if you pop in my head, I am going to send you a note. I am going to send you, and I say it's cheesy, but I agree. It fills my heart. I don't know how it's going to be received, but I know it fills my heart, and I'm projecting that brighter energy. And there's so many things that our brain is doing on its own in terms of hyper focusing on the difficulties, the worries. And I love how you multiple times said the importance of the intention, and how you started the podcast saying joy is a practice, and it's a lifelong practice. And and even as a psychiatrist, I say, like, I don't even like the word happy, because it feels like this social expectation. Like we're supposed to be happy all the time. And if we're not, then we feel like it's something broken. And we have moments of happiness. We have moments of joy. And then we can feel them and we can spread them. And that's what I think of you, right? Like it's right. And we know your story, and I know, and we know that it hasn't always been easy, but yet you can reframe, you can have acknowledgement and compassion for what's happened, and then also say, how do I want to show up for myself and for those around me? And then how you've created a movement. This is a movement. And I love the secret agents. Like I see, like, I don't know, like in my visual brain, like I see you all with, like, how do you call this? Like what you put around your eyes, and a cape. It's like going around, who needs a little love today? Let's send it out. That's how I see it all, and I would definitely would love to be a part of it, and love your pinpricks of light. What a beautiful visual too, right? Like that, it could be just a sliver, but there's a light that we can focus on, and right, say it now, and say it at any moment with all the love. I'm so inspired here by you. It's so much. My heart is full right now.
Joanne, and I just want to say, right, like, not to rush past what you said, which was so important. You said, when someone drops in my mind, I send them a note. That is everything. And I know, people may be like, well, whatever, what is, but and I know you know this because I see the sparkle in your eye, that it changes you instantly, right? Like, it's great to think of someone and to think how much we love them. And that feels really good. But wow, is it exponentially better when we actually do that thing to tell them, whatever it is, however we tell them. And it's like, I can imagine, right? You're just filling yourself up. And yeah, absolutely. The people receiving it. And I know
that it's like Erin that doubles the love. Been on the other side of your love on multiple times. And I always look forward to seeing you, and what an honor to have you here in our podcast. And we do this kind of pre-interviews, and we sit down with our guests, and we sit down, what are some of the things that we want to talk about and highlight. And there was so much value that we decided to make this a two-parter. So we're going to take a pause here, unless Erin or Sherry, you want to say something before we end here, this one?
I'm sure that our guest wants to know where they can find you, Sherry, so we can put it in the show notes for each of the episodes. Where can our listener find you and learn more about all of these amazing different opportunities that you support?
Oh, thank you. Well, Say It Now is available in bookstores or Amazon or wherever you buy books. And my company is simplycelebrate.net. With an emphasis on the simply for people who are very, very busy.
And how about on social media? Places they can find you?
Simplycelebrate.net. Yeah, so Simply Celebrate is joy, the name that I use pretty much everywhere.
Just looking at Sherry will brighten your day. So don't hesitate, and we'll be adding these links in the notes. But with that, we're going to pause, but stay tuned, because part 2 with Sherry is coming right up, and we're going to be focusing on maybe a little bit more serious topics in terms of mental health, depression, and how we can do things in that regard as well.
Do you want exclusive resources and the opportunity to connect with us? Then visit createmeaninginmedicine.com now, where you'll dive deeper into how you can create meaning in medicine. And if you're serious about optimizing your results, take 2 quick steps now. Connect with us on the website and tune in to the next episode.